right, we are live. This is our first town hall. It says it's recording, so I'm going to say yeah, we're okay.
The attendees are slowly populating. It
Look at that. They're
takes a while for them to log on. It's like they're filing into the room and trying to find a seat that's not near somebody that's sick.
Yeah, and Mac is in the venue, so
Right.
you know, audience is still coming in, huh, Mac?
Yeah, here from Radio City. This is all our tech tables in the back
Oh, nice. You're just getting ready for all this. It's going to be a very informal night
for the Christmas
You know?
show. These are the Christmas show tech tables.
All right, everybody's starting to pile in here.
I don't see in our attendees list a way to do anything other than chat with them. Isn't there a way to turn their mic on?
There is.
Is it only in your screen?
Yeah. I haven't allowed a talk function here and promote to let's see here.
Great.
Yeah, we got a lot of options. Not really.
So promote art
to panelist.
Promote art to panelists. Just see if we can see them. This is all new to us, everybody.
We're doing this together.
Yeah.
Art Janota, welcome to the stage.
This is learn by doing.
Okay. He wasn't ready for this, so he might be.
His camera's muted
as we're speaking,
and his mic is muted.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, he's in the big van.
The bus.
Nice, the bus. All right. Okay.
What, are you actually on tour somewhere?
Yeah, tour of my house.
Oh,
There
okay,
you go.
great. Great, cool.
It's good. You're pacing back and forth, so this is good.
Yeah.
You know, I hope you don't take this personally, but I'm gonna go grab. Hey, Gary Cobb. As long as you hang on, I'm gonna try this function first. Can you hear me, Gary? Can you unmute? I'm gonna see if you can talk to me.
Yes, I can talk to you.
Oh my God, Gary Cobb. Okay, are you dressed? That's my other question. If I bring you
am I dressed? Yes, I'm
Dressed. No,
dressed.
dressed.
But I have tape over my camera because I don't like spies.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I can untape it if you need me to check it.
No, you don't need to check it. It just, you know, I haven't seen you in a few years. Gary and I go a long way back.
And
back.
that was not a delay in the data coming through.
That was not a delay.
Like
that
we
was
usually hear from Kelly.
That's
There's
like
a time stretched long. LOOOOOO.
that. So Gary, that would make you old, and me old.
So we've determined that there are two functions here: questions and chat. So if you have a real question, put it in questions. If you just want to chat, put it in chat. Don't say, "Hi guys, how are you?" Don't say that in questions, because we'll say we're not good at all. So don't put that in questions. So only questions go in questions, and they have to end with they have to start with a capital letter and they have to end with a question mark. Remember.
Yeah, let's use proper punctuation, people. That's all I'm saying.
And remember to get the right tense of there, and there, and all that stuff. Exactly.
I mean, with points will be taken off
spelling counts.
for grammar.
If you don't spell right, you don't get to talk.
Hey, here we go. We're gonna add hey, Jeff Jones. Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out. Hey, there we go, Jeff. How's it going, man?
I'm good.
Good. I going around.
Don't want to do that.
We're not going to take this into a super heavy. Let's just see if his screen's working. And let's see.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you don't have to answer people if you're getting, if things are a little.
Let's ask Jason to expound on his comment in questions.
Okay, go ahead and bring him on. Can you do that?
You have to do that. I can't.
Yeah, that's my job. So
that's your job.
Let's see here. Jason Glass, please address that booking agents, tour managers, and production managers no longer have any excuse to not be up to date, completely accurate, and knowledgeable of their production's every technical need. We'll all have plenty of time and opportunities to be instructed. The days are over. All right, so 10-4. Jason, here we go. I brought you up. And I'm going to do this. I need to take, Jeff, I'm pushing you back for just a second to make room. I'm going to do the same thing with you, Harlan, for just a moment. Now, Jason, okay, Jason Glass.
We have found that the Zoom platform, although they
Art,
allow up to
I'm gonna
52
throw you
people
to
on
the
the
back for a
screen, it
moment.
doesn't work very well if we go that high.
Okay, so Jason, let's see. Asked to start video, yeah. Oh, this is a lot of work. This is like, wow.
Boy, I
There
wasn't
we go.
expecting that.
I know. This is, hey, you know what? This,
Uh,
welcome to town halls, baby.
Thank you.
This
Oh,
is how this
boy.
works. And
Well,
yeah,
So now we want to have specific producer names and booking agents to go with this question.
no, we don't. No, we
no,
don't.
no, we don't
No,
need that.
We don't. No.
You know, for years, we can't get an answer out of some of these guys. Even days up to the show, even with artists walking on stage, we can't sometimes get information out of these guys that's accurate or even close. The booking agents, they send out stage plots and input lists from 3 years ago. If we're all going to be sitting around for months, there's no more excuse for that.
How would you encourage that? I mean, obviously we can say we want it, but is there a way to shame them into doing it before the show? I don't know.
It's tough because it's you know, the way things are right now, it's different cultures. You've got management culture, you've got technical culture.
Right.
You know, we're two different communities.
Can we get a translator?
And that's all I got, guys. I don't belong on camera.
No, that's all good, Jason. Thanks.
No,
I'm
it's a really good comment. Really good
gonna-
comment. And
Yeah, I'm going to push you back to attendee. Don't take it personally.
Exactly.
But no, so there you go. I think when we were wrapping up our last session in Q Lab, that was kind of one of our big points, right? Was to say, look, in no time in history, in no trade show ever, including AES, I'm going to go out that far.
Hey.
I don't mean that personally, but we have such a great opportunity here to literally talk about anything and everything, not just us, but the manufacturers across every single video, audio, lighting, staging, business, whatever it is, the ability to converse, it's huge right now, right? And I see MJ. Excellent. Thank you. Good to see you, buddy. I am going to go grab on my list of people, Denise Woodward. I'm going to come to you now, if you're cool with that. I'm going to allow you to talk first, so make sure you're all cool. If you're ready, I will open up your mic.
Okay.
All right, and promoting
We
the
got the
panelists.
okay. There we go.
There we go. That's a good sign. And Denise is going to be joining us in just a second. I think I may have to ask to start video. Good Lord. It's
Okay.
like 6 button pushes. God forbid I actually had to mix a show on this platform.
Hey, Denise.
Hey,
You'd
Denise.
think it was a Midas console.
Oh, my. Oh, whoa, man. We're trying to get sponsorship here, man. We're not helping the situation. Denise, thanks for joining on tonight, because we were talking earlier today after that A2 panel we did yesterday. One of the things that really became pretty apparent is post-COVID, right? We're going to touch a lot of subjects tonight, no pun intended, but COVID is one of those things that is going to change how we're working in the short term, no doubt, right? And then it's also going to affect us midterm in that, you know, it's going to take a while before we find those vaccines, before we have other answers to those difficult questions. And then long term, yes, we'll probably find a solution to this, that science is going to help us the same way it's helping us to understand the value of shelter in place against all of my inner desires to not be home. We're going to do that. So in our conversation, Denise has started having an initiative here. You know, we've seen some audio equipment manufacturers that are mainly like in the comm space. You know, I'll use ClearComm as an example. they're, talking about that. Other mic companies have talked about good hygiene. Tell us a little bit about the initiative, because you're really out there trying to get in front of this thing. So why don't you take a few minutes and let's just hear from you about that, and then we're going to build a little discussion around it.
Okay, well, thanks, Kelly, and thanks, Pete and Mac and everyone who's here. Yeah, I have been thinking about what is it going to be like when we get back to work. And I started a project that I call Imagining a Post-COVID-19 World. And as Kelly said, we as audio professionals are responsible for managing a lot of the high-touch, multi-user pieces of equipment. And I think that the expectation when we all get back to work will be that we practice much better hygiene than we do currently. So, and I'm talking about, as Kelly said, when we get back to work, not when we're wearing masks and gloves and social distancing. But I think that the expectation from our clients and our and each other will be that that we start cleaning and sanitizing things a lot more frequently. And so my question was, what will the expectations be and how can we meet them? So the first thing I did was I went to the CDC to see what they recommended in terms of cleaning electronic equipment. And then I started contacting manufacturers as well as just going to their websites and seeing what their recommendations were. Because of course, we want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our clients, we want to inspire confidence in the people around us that we're not going to be handing off germ-infected things. But we also don't want to damage the equipment. Clearly, we don't want to damage the electronics, and we also don't want to damage the finishes. So I started doing some research, and at some point, Kelly will probably ask me to come back and present what I've found. In the meantime, this is my call out. I think first I sort of envision maybe a web space where we could have a manufacturer agnostic recommendations. So we could have PDFs or links where you could just go and say, well, today I'm working with Riedel equipment. This is what Riedel recommends for your sanitizing the equipment on show site. Secondly, just a call out to manufacturers. I know a lot of the manufacturers have already started putting out technical bulletins, but I think this really will be very, very important as we move forward, and it would be great for the manufacturers to start either experimenting with their gear and coming up with the recommendations or just putting out papers for us. And then thirdly, just a call out to my peers. This is, we're going to have to start developing efficient workflows around this. The expectation is that we are going to clean this gear in between users, and yet I expect that no one's going to budget time or money for us to do this. It'll just be another thing that we add onto our daily workflow. So I also just want to, reach out to people and say, hey, if you have ideas, it would be great. Contact me or contact Kelly or however we want to do this to really start figuring out what the workflows are going to be. So we'll be ready to go when we're back to work. When the producer says, oh, I needed that clean yesterday. Well, you'll be able to go, here it is on the website. I need to take this product and use that to clean it and not damage the gear. So that's what I've been working on. And Kelly, I don't know if you want to open up to discussion now, or we just want to sort of.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there, that a lot of great points actually you brought up with that. The the whole idea of the maintenance, there's so much to this, right? And if we kind of imagine what shelter in place has brought us to being able to ponder and think about that we didn't have. Let's kind of rewind to next steps, right? When this emerges, you know, I should say when we emerge from this, kind of like a cocoon kind of thing, right? You know, and we're going to come out, you know, what are some of the things that you're sensing, you know, right now that are like, what are those few things, even if it's not gear related, like just from a personal standpoint? You guys out in San Francisco you were early on this, right?
Yep.
Certainly you took steps, one of the earliest in the nation. And so that means you've had more time to think about it. But what do you have like first time, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but like if you're going out to your first show, what do you see as a couple things you're going to do?
Absolutely. Well, thinking of just say putting in a comm system, for instance, load it off the truck, set it all up, program all the equipment, set it all out, and now you're going to send a bunch of A2s to go out and check it, right? And now, even if you've cleaned it before you put it out, now it's been touched one more time, right? Before it's handed off to the ultimate user. So what is the workflow going to be? I want to check the headset, the actual headset that's going to be used with the actual belt pack, right? So what will be the workflow? One idea would be to remove all of the windscreens and ear pads and have those sanitized and leave the sanitized headset or windscreen and ear pad at the station, and then have the A2 with their own just windscreen and ear pad for the test, and they'll just use one for each one, and then they'll test it, they'll wipe it down, and when it's done, you put the in a package or whatever windscreen and ear pad, so that the actual user for the show will then be able to put that on, and it'll be sanitized for them. And you know,
I think that's a really great idea. However, some headsets don't lend themselves to taking their windscreens on and off. And I think if we can, if the rental houses can come up with a stripped down headset, take their regular headsets, take all the foam stuff out of it, take the mic out of it, and pack separately something to go over the headset and over the mic that is always packed separately, and only the user opens it up. So you can go check a headset and wipe down a headset, but not necessarily have to use a windscreen and an earpiece for the A2, but clean the headset after your own personal use. And then the sealed bag is for the user to open up and use on site.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Denise, you had something?
No, exactly. That's he just stated more clearly what I was trying to say, I think.
Well, you know, Pete lives in comm world. You know, Mac, you got something you want to throw in there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Go on.
I mean, one of my first things I'm thinking about right now is, do I send a note out to all my producers and go, you know what? I think headsets are going to be like webcams when the first show comes around. I would order one now, and I would own it, and I would buy it immediately.
And yeah, anybody who spends their life on a headset should own their own.
At this point, you start to wonder if now, you know, that's a little, I don't know that that's all that extreme, frankly, but I do think we will see that as we start to emerge. And maybe for those of you looking for work coming out of this, maybe folks that you, the people you work with regularly might be a good welcome back gift for one person, right? Say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate working with you, and I've been away for 2 months, and I appreciate working with you even more right now.
Now, it obviously is not going to happen, or I don't think it's going to happen, but a really forward-looking producer for one of the first shows out there will say, I'm buying headset for every single person on the crew. This is
a forward-looking shop.
Well, there's a shop. The shop would do that too,
because they're buying them at dealer cost.
And you don't have to do $1,000 headset. A couple of $100, you can get an incredible headset. So, you know, and then people can have them. And maybe that's the attitude the shops have to start taking, and producers, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking through the questions here, because you know, Art obviously loves his Shure BRH31M, so there's a shout out for a model number. But looking through some of these things here, it's hard enough to convince producers to purchase expendables for smaller budget shows. I have the argument about purchasing a separate mic for each understudy, swing actor, spare mics, extra wipes all the time. Also, if we are coloring mics for actors' hair, skin color, then most alcohol-based sanitizers will ruin the custom paint job. Man,
Right.
all right. So there are a whole list of challenges that we are going to face there, because every one of those is very valid, right? So I know there's a few manufacturers listening in, so great opportunity for custom cables that aren't necessarily always painted. That doesn't fix some custom other things. But to Denise's point, this is why we really need some leadership from the various manufacturers, because obviously there's the concern of the virus, but the overarching concern is, I don't want to destroy this stuff. All right. How do I, and only you, the manufacturer, can really help me understand that, because you have that knowledge. We don't have that knowledge. I mean, I have that knowledge on a few things because I ruined them, but
Well,
I
you
can't
know what
really
not to
afford
use.
do this all the time of ruining stuff and then going, well, that wasn't such a good idea, was it? Yeah, somebody else says, I envision what Denise and Peter describing being sort of like the process of how headsets are handed out in first class. They aren't new, but each user takes them out of a sanitized package, right? That's the experience they're gonna have. So,
You know, that's pretty much the way we do headsets now, at least on shows I'm on. They'll come from a shop, a lot of shops, in a sealed bag. Now, that doesn't mean they cleaned it before they put it in the sealed bag, but at least we know that nobody on that show has used it before. And then we've gotten to the point where headsets, intercom headsets, are kept with the belt packs they're used with. Sometimes to put names on them, but it's just easy enough to let the user slip their headset cable through the clip of the belt pack before they slip it into the charger to make sure they get the same headset each time.
So I'm going to buy a heat sealer and just kind of vacuum pack everything backstage each night.
Oddly enough, my computer is sitting on one right now because I need a
heat
cardboard
sealer?
box to get it up
Okay.
high enough.
There we go.
And the cardboard box is well, it's for sealing bags for sous vide cooking, but
Exactly.
that's
A lot of these
propping
things,
my computer up.
these tools are readily available. And Denise, I think here's the thing: is that what we're suggesting, like at the shop level, is not tens of thousands of dollars of equipment that you have to go out and purchase in order to, seal up a bag, right? We're able to do this with not a lot of hardware. I did see a note here that's a really good point, that unfortunately I know plenty of freelancers who can't afford a headset. I think that's true. I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of tools, and I've ruined a lot of tools over the years. But that's a good point, and that's something that at some point you're going to have to.
At some point, those freelancers are going to have to accept that their health and safety is part of the gig.
Mm-hmm.
They own tools. How many Leatherman do they own at $30 a piece? It doesn't have to be a big expense. It can be. I mean, you can really spend a lot of money on a headset, but a couple of $100 buys you a pretty good headset.
Another thing that a rental house might do, and this is something that would work for any solution and would save a lot of problems with the headset, is come up with a box that has UV lights in it that may be long enough, 4 or 5 feet long. The door opens, the light goes off, you put your headset in there in a slot with all the rest of the headsets, close the door, UV light for 10 minutes will kill anything on that headset.
I don't know if he's here, but I believe Joe Foley does that.
Joe Foley does that too.
And UV sanitizers will work through the bag.
Yeah.
So you can package the headset in a sealed plastic bag and then put it in the UV sanitizer. You don't have to.
And I assume that given enough time, they'll even sanitize through a foam windscreen.
Sure, but and I guess this, again, I'll go back to Denise's point that this is why we need to hear back from manufacturers, right? Because, and we understand that a lot of what we're asking for may be outside of their purview. It may be something where they need medical. We're also looking, which is kind of a weird time, where we're looking for advice from the medical community on how it affects audio or video or any of these kind of things, right? And so I would encourage every manufacturer, though, let's find out the same way we did the repack, all right? The same way that we all got together during the FCC repack and said, you know what, let's try and speak as much of as a singular voice as is possible. And why can't we do that in this type of situation where we say, we understand there's a lot of legal implications, we understand the medical implications, but we would ask you to do what you can to help us find these answers while we have time. And unfortunately, it is difficult because a lot of those manufacturing plants are shut down, and they should be. I'm not suggesting that we do anything that's unsafe, but you know, I think there is opportunity there. Your UV thing's a good point. One of the producers during our A2 panel sent me a note yesterday saying, what about, I know you guys like your tins for putting your microphones in when they're turned on. He says, what if you did a Faraday Tupperware case, right? And then you put your mics in there when you're using them, and then when they're sanitized, then you put a lid on that, and you have some sort of seal tape, right? So then overnight we know that nobody's been in there, because he's thinking at that from his customer's perspective, right? Because imagine that first show that the A2 walks out to go, hello, here's your microphone for today. I'm curious what that initial, it's like, you know, is that like one of those UFO moments where it's like this going to be this weird encounter where it's like, I've never, you know, or Denise, you know, you talked about face mask and gloves, because I think in the short term, until we get that definitive answer, whether that's from the government, the CDC, where we understand better, how long does this thing live and where does it live? Where does it not live? You know, we get that. What's your feeling? What do you think you would look like? What do you plan on doing? If I could ask you, you know, you give me some ideas of, if I'm that person walking on, what are, you know, 3 or 4 recommendations to consider? I'm not saying you have to do it, but what would you say I should consider?
Well, you know, I think that, you know, it's funny, there's a story, Kelly and I were talking about it earlier today, of way back in February, way back before all of this, before we were all aware of this, where an A2 was on a corporate gig, and they went to go mic up the talent, and they put on a mask and gloves, and felt like they were the person who could be sharing the germs between each person. And so they went to each person and said, you know, if it's okay, I'd like to wear a mask and glove while I mic you up. It's to protect you and to protect me. Well, that person, this is way back in February, got dismissed from their job because of the optics. The producer didn't like how it looked. They said, well, what is everyone going to think? Well, now, right, everything's been reversed. This is
you're going to be thinking you're weird if you're not wearing a face mask.
Exactly. So, you know, I think it's really going to be driven by the sensitivity of the clients, the comfort of the user. I suspect I would at least probably want to wear gloves, maybe a face mask as well. I think it's going to be a while before we're all at work again. And we may not, like I said earlier, we may not all be wearing face masks and gloves at that point in the future. So, but, you know, just to that point, I can imagine it'll be very sensitive to take a face worn mic, like a DPA or something, from one person to the next. There's going to be some sort of demonstration that it is cleaned, you know, that we're, as A2s, are going to have to show them, I've cleaned this, because they're not going to want us to put it on. Exactly. And, you know, and that's another thing where we really need to find out from the manufacturers, what's not going to damage that mic, what's not going to damage the jacket. Is
Right.
the alcohol going to be too corrosive? What do we do? And
We had a comment from Michael McDermott exactly to that effect. You can't make recommendations for this stuff unless you're opening yourself to liability from the manufacturers if for damaging their equipment if you don't have specific recommendations. And then another comment was made, the UV type C is the only type that really kills the virus, and that's deadly to humans. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have UV light that can shine on you. It has to actually physically turn off when you put it in. And you don't want to go through that on site, I think. It just has to be in a plastic bag at the vendor, sanitized in that bag with UV. Maybe the UV doesn't go out on site. They only use it in the shop. But when you get on site, you have a guaranteed sanitized headset. And rather than have them hang up or leave their headset laying around, users should be encouraged to put it in their own work box or put it in their own.
Yeah, maybe this is a library situation where I check this headset out and it's mine for the duration, right? Now, does that mean you've got to take care of that? Yep, Art's got his sign out sheet there.
Yep.
You threw that up there. You know, and do I now, and that's my responsibility, right? What I hear a lot of is opportunity to really be proactive, to show whether it's the presenter, the producer, or the production company, or the vendor I'm working for, that I care, that I want to be a part of this solution, that I'm looking for ways to not just protect myself, but also protect that user. I know I see from our list here, we've got a few vendors on the line. I would challenge you guys to reach out to your sub vendors and say, this is what we're going to be doing with our gear. I would ask you to do something similar. Now, again, I know I'm making it very light and high level here because I know there's a lot of other things underneath there legal wise and things like that. But just for conversation purposes, I think we can say, look, best practice, I want my headsets coming to me sealed. Forget about COVID, right? Yep. When I re-rent from you, I want these showing up to me this way. Now, do I have
want you to guarantee that they've been sanitized?
Right. Right. You know, that this doesn't have any, this is a best practice. Like Denise said, what do we look like 18, 24 months from now when we're probably doing stuff similar to what we did show wise? And, you know, history has kind of just said, hey, you know, we made it through that. Everybody will have it in the back of their mind like we always do as human beings, right? I'm on to the next thing now. This one's going to take a little longer. I'll be honest. I think this one will be hanging in the back of my mind probably longer than some other challenges.
And some of the stuff we probably should have been doing all along.
Yeah. And that's the point, right?
If you go to a lot of restaurants
now, because I don't want to put some sweaty Bayard 108 on my ear.
Well, that's the main reason I like to assign it to people so they get their lone sweat back, at least at the very least. But in a lot of restaurants, you will see the person behind the counter put on gloves to make your sandwich and take your gloves off and throw them away to take your money, or maybe throw them away after they take your money and put on another set of gloves. And I think this is the routine that A2s will have to do. Every single time they change a pack on a different person, they have to change their gloves.
How about our comms people?
If you are physically handling the equipment normally comms people don't do that. They'll say, all your stuff is over there, get it yourself.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're lazy or anything. Now, no, I'm sure when you dye your hair, you wear gloves.
We don't want to touch all those people that got germs on them and stuff.
Yeah. So anyhow, I think poor Denise, we've really migrated off way. We're good at that, though. That's something the three of us have become quite adept at in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I appreciate you starting this discussion, Denise, and I would encourage everybody who is on this town hall, if you want to get in touch with Denise, send me an email. I would love to connect you folks up, because what I appreciate that Denise is doing here is that she's opening a conversation This isn't about, hey, I refuse to go to work unless these 22 demands are met, right? We're going to have those moments. I guarantee you, somebody brought up on our question thing here where Jenny talked yesterday about someone who had flu-like symptoms, and she was like, and this is before this, right? So that's not to say we're not going to have difficult topics, but now is the time to be talking and thinking about it, right? Not when the next week we're ready to go to work. We're like, man, I wish I would have had more time to figure a plan out. Well, guess what?
We need to get a plan.
A lot of
Now's the
time
time.
to figure a plan out, right?
And I think it's incumbent upon us, I think, to lead the plan. We're
I
not
would
going to
agree.
have the producers or the TD say, okay, here's the plan.
Yep.
We're going to, no, you have to walk in and say, okay,
Right.
this
I
is
want
what
to
I've
spend
done.
more money.
This is how we're organizing it.
Hey, I am going to leave a tip in there though. Leave something for them to find, right? So don't, come in with your plan, but leave a little room for everybody because we know how that works, right? But you're right, Pete. We have to walk in ready to go with, hey, I've been doing a lot of research, and Denise, thank you. We're going to be looking forward to, hopefully you'll be leading that way, for a while to come, and you can share this info as you find it. And like we said, we'll do a webinar just on this topic. It's going to reach that point, and we need to, again, spend our time right now thinking, working, trying to, I've already gotten my first request to connect you guys up tomorrow, Denise. So this is great. I appreciate it. I'm going to demote you back to an attendee, but don't take it personally. But any closing thoughts or people?
Denise, when you start collecting all your information, we can work together. I'll make a whole page on the Best Audio website. You can list all the stuff there by manufacturer, methods of cleaning, everything. We'll set it all up if you'd like.
That would be perfect. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
No
And
problem.
I'm sorry, I've got a crazy puppy who's barking in the
That's okay.
background. So
No problem.
but I really look forward to connecting with people, hearing people's ideas. And like I said, this is like a community project. We can all work together to help one another, keep each other safe, and also, protect our clients, add value to what we bring to shows. So I really think this should be a community effort. And so thank you.
No, this is great. And thanks for opening that discussion. I saw a really encouraging note just now where just before they went home for shelter in place, this one individual said, their company had already put standard operating procedures in place for sanitizing. Great next step, right? At least we know when we come back, this is not going to be brand new. So thanks again, Denise. We'll keep it going up. Pete, I see.
Got us a good suggestion from Ken Newman that rental houses should sell to their freelancers with a payment plan over 6 months on jobs they work on, headsets at dealer cost. So they can only take a couple of dollars out of every week out of their paycheck to pay for it. And because you say freelancers can't afford it. That's true. But if there was something, there was only a few dollars out of every week of work for them, particularly if they're staff, why not?
No, this is again, a lot of unique solutions we need to put on the table, right? And I would encourage people who have the means. I'm thinking of myself when I have my team of people I'm pulling together. What are some things I want to have ready for our first show out together? Is that a box of wipes and a box of gloves and maybe a
I
headset
want
or
whole
two?
body PPE.
Kelly, I think you need to get me a new headset.
Exactly.
I'll get you a little hair thing first. But
Okay.
thanks,
Please.
Denise. I really do appreciate it. And we'll be talking some more. I'm gonna change your role back to attendee. Hang with us. That was that kind of is wow. I never thought I'd be at this point thinking about these kind of topics.
But I think the key thing is we're thinking about it now, and we need to bring these thoughts to the shows we work on immediately when we start working on them. And before anybody asks, what are we doing about it? We say, well, we've already done it. We've got this and this and this and this and this and this. It's all taken care of.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's being proactive here. So people out there, all these ideas, these are some awesome ideas on this side that I'm looking through these questions. Please send those into us, info@practicalshowtech.com. let's start compiling these questions, because I am pretty confident that with our crowdsourcing in our industry, not just us, but all of the industry around us, we can come up with some great ideas that can get vetted out pretty fast. And this is going to take a partnership of the vendor, and it's going to take the manufacturer, and it's going to take the end user or us, the people actually on that gear, doing a little bit of everything in this solution. So let's start getting those together. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That's what we're here for. I think that kind of leads into one of my topics that I had been thinking about for tonight, which is that +1, right? How am I going to differentiate? Number one, forget about differentiation for a minute. When we go back to work, I don't foresee, Mac, do you see us going back at the full strength of crews that we had, especially for live events?
Certainly not at the beginning.
I think so. I think we're going to go right back to the same shows we did before. But
With the same number of people, you think?
Maybe even more.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, for one, they're going to be so starved for shows, they're going to do bigger shows, I think. Microsoft, I know, is planning on doing no shows ever again.
Well, they're saying no shows through 2021.
Right. Well, that's all like never again.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be bigger. I think it'll be
But I think it's going to be a change of style. I mentioned this in our first webinar when we were talking about teleconferencing. I have a client who's a big financial company, and we used to do monthly partner meetings for them that involved teleconferencing together 5 or 6 big auditoriums around the world that all had between 200 and 500 people in them. And now they're doing them with completely teleconferenced. I'm still working. I'm working 3 days this week doing meetings every morning. And we have 3 people in New York at the world headquarters, and they're on TV to their 38,000 employees. And that's how they're doing their meetings. They're going to have to do it that way until we get through this and people get told they can come back to work.
Right.
They must do this. And I think when they get people to come back to work, they're going to come back to work, and they're going to still have people working in offices, but they will have realized that they don't have to send a team of executives to Shanghai for a meeting or to Frankfurt for a meeting. They can do it on a teleconference. There's going to be a lot of meetings that are no longer face-to-face, and they're going to be done electronically. I think we're going to find that there's going to be a splintering off of, if you will, of a new industry, which is servicing clients in a new way.
I think there definitely is, and rental houses could certainly look forward to that and doing shows in 10 different places at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all done shows where there's only 20 people at each location and you're doing 10 locations. And that's not necessarily because of COVID. That's just because it's cheaper to fly people around to closer places than all to the same place.
Yeah. I mean,
you do any kind of multi-level marketing show where people come from around the world to get their awards. They're all going to want to be seen and be in one giant place and walk down the aisle.
That kind of show is going to have to happen, because those businesses go away otherwise, because that's the only thing. That's what keeps the pyramid building is the fact that they do these.
I can win awards. And be really important. There we go.
I mean, one of the things I noticed with when we're doing webcasts, even for the largest companies, we have smaller groups, right? Because we don't have the same level of support necessary. We don't have PA for 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, right? We're just, minimal control room. I could see, I've seen some stuff coming in, about, the kind of range between what are our indicators and where do we think things will be. I see a note like McDermott said something about, regional 1,000 or less to start. I think pro sports leagues, once
Right.
they start putting people back
Yeah, I
in,
mean,
right, that sends the signal.
Phil Barrett's point
You know.
is on point because there's billions involved in pro sports, and they need to be back in their stadium. So at some point, that's going to happen, and that's going to force the issue.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And you know, Shane, good point. Once the planes start moving, then people can move, right? And a lot of this is going to be taking cues from the other, right? But as we're going along, I think there's going to be a need for us to understand that, hey, I'm thankful to be working, right? Not like, hey,
Right.
I'm going to put myself in danger. But I think our attitude when we go back is going to be very important, because it's going to be a supply demand. We're going to have a huge amount of supply and a pretty limited demand
Yeah.
for our services.
Yeah, I think another industry show that will come back without audiences is esports.
Mm-hmm.
90% of their paid viewership is all online. They don't really need an audience of 500, 600, 700 people, except for the excitement.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, NASCAR, when they televised that first race 3 weeks ago as an esport, had the largest esport attendance ever. Now, it wasn't in the millions, right? But imagine if I would have told you a year ago that network television would be programming on the weekend during sports, grown men driving video games. All right. You'd have been,
But
this is crazy. It's not going to happen.
You've clearly never done an esports tournament.
Well, no, but my point is on network television that it was now listed as, here's your alternatives for today on the big five.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, Twitch is like, well, we've been doing this forever. How come nobody, look at us, we've been doing this forever. We're like, yeah, I get it. But now the big boys are all, here we are, right? The big five have said, this is how we're going to do it. And lots of cool things. But what I'm noticing as an audio person, they sound about like our webinars. You know, and they got all these drivers that had state-of-the-art communication systems in their cars. And now at home, I see iPad, you know, iPhone, you know, ear pods hanging out, nasty bandwidth, limited audio, and delay for days.
So that's an opportunity.
Lip sync.
Let's do better. I mean, look at all the late night shows. They're this far from being as good as they were, and everybody's in a different room.
Okay, exactly.
You know, all they're missing is a little applause, and you can do that with a sweetener in the back room, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, MJ, good point. 5G will change that delay audio bandwidth, right? But that's going to be that next generation that's coming, right? So what we're experiencing today is that lagging indicator that 24 months from now, holy cow, right? And that dynamic, you know, what we saw with MeteorNet yesterday.
Yep.
It's like, look, if we don't embrace this multidiscipline, the +1, if I can't get comfortable sharing fiber with other people, I'm going to have a problem, because we're doing we got a cool note from Michael Mason today at CP. His whole thing about, you know, Remy and this the remote broadcast, right? Where there aren't even people on the other end that are, you know, maybe there's a couple of them. I think good point, Jason. Young people crave the physical company of other young people reveling together. That is going to be that thing that says, I want to be together and I'm okay being apart. I'm together. I was talking to a parent today. I'm like, isn't it amazing that now they can't do it and they're playing board games over computers, right? They're playing board games on FaceTime. And our answer, you know, 2 generations ago is, oh, these electronic things are going to kill you. This is just, it's destroying. Except that if we didn't have those today, what would we be doing? We'd be sitting in our rooms.
Climbing the wall.
Right. So the answer is not getting rid of it, right? The answer is the balancing of it all, and we're pretty good at not doing that, but we're going to learn. Where was I? The whole idea of thinking differently. So one of our panelists this week sent me a note and said, all these people that own wireless intercom, why not go to a hospital and rent them, right? We saw an article about that. I think, Pete, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
About the use of Bolero in a hospital, you know, on the
They were using it for communication, but into super isolated rooms. In the past, they'd had little buttons on the wall on crappy little speaker stations, and they couldn't talk. Then they just put on a Bolero, one antenna, and a standalone system, and 5 bell packs, and they have a really powerful full duplex system, which could have interfaced to other parts of the university, of the hospital.
So if I'm a vendor and I've got gear sitting on my shelf,
Yep.
right? Forget the logistics of getting it out for just a second. Let's just pretend
Yeah.
get it where we need it. Is it now time to think differently? We've always thought, okay, the production company is my customer. I do show.
Yep.
But when we think about intercom, we do communications, right? But what do we do in putting on a show? We communicate, right? And connecting. I think, nope, it looked like I froze up, but I didn't.
No, you didn't.
When we can connect between there, we have opportunity by just thinking differently, right? And going and knocking on doors and asking questions. You know, that was, I don't know, it kind of hit me profoundly when I heard that going there, and that's what it's going to be about for at least the near term. Not doing business the way we thought we would do business or can do business. So,
well, it's an interesting opportunity. Unfortunately, there's nobody in the hospitals who really appreciate what it does for them. I think it was an unusual situation that
it was, but that's what salespeople are for. We have all these account executives.
That's what we need, more salespeople.
They're not selling shows because there are no shows. Okay. Why? So thinking outside of that box, knocking on doors, literally, figuratively, right?
And it's sort of philosophically the way it was at Tate, or somebody was building portable hospital rooms, a staging company.
Tate and Claire.
Was it Mountain or Tate? Yeah.
Mountain or Tate? I thought it was Tate and Claire.
Yeah, I thought so too. But you know, again, they've got inventory sitting around. I don't know if they're charging for it or if it's a humanitarian effort.
That was I think they were doing it for free.
They have gear sitting around, and it's a crisis, and they came up with a solution that nobody else was addressing. And they're pros at that. That's what they do. And
all three were involved in it. Tate, PRG is doing the rooms as well.
Yeah. Agent IC in hospitals, LQs. Why not take this opportunity to step that quality up? Because I read an article yesterday, which was really interesting. And this was in one of the southern states. They expect to have a shortage of ventilators. So this doctor at one of the teaching colleges designed a ventilator with $100 worth of parts from Home Depot, a garden hose,
a manual ventilator,
no, an electric timer for a light.
Oh yeah, it had a piston, right? I saw that.
And they are applying for temporary certification from the FDA. They've built 175 of these already. Right now,
but weren't those planned for third world countries that couldn't afford?
Or they may have been, but guess what? That would, I guess, will be in that list potentially.
Right.
But what great example. Yes, is the FDA involved? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But this idea of thinking differently, right? That's literally, when you think about what a ventilator is and its core function, you don't like to think about going into a hospital with a garden hose down your throat. I get that. But These are people that are thinking, so this disruption, we hear about that at all our presentations all the time. We need, this market disruptor, and Steve Jobs was God and disrupting and this.
Yeah.
You know what? Nature disrupted, and it's the single biggest disruption we've ever experienced in our lifetime, I would dare to say, that
Yeah,
wasn't man-made.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
right.
we go back to what was it, the Middle Ages and the plague, but it's
Yeah, but we didn't have the internet then. So
Right, we
it's
didn't
really
have the
hard to
internet
believe
then, yeah.
anything they told. I don't believe anything they told me from the Middle Ages because it's not on the internet. All right. I only
Yeah.
believe what's on the internet. Right. And by the way, I'm pretty sure 5G does not affect COVID. All right. You may not be getting
Or cause it.
or
Yeah.
cause it. It does not happen. Right. I'm just looking here. Yeah.
Let me see if Michael could come in and expand on what he just said there.
Yeah. Which one?
Michael
McDermott.
McDermott in the
Yeah.
chat.
Upcoming events and the venues wanting the contracts rewritten. Venues are telling existing contractees force majeure will not apply since they already know about the situation, meaning the venue's legal team, the contract's legal team, and risk manager are going to seriously delay all of us getting back to work. Definitely potential. I don't disagree with that in its entirety. I would say this has very much the same feeling as Y2K, right? Where there are so many people that have more to lose by not finding a solution, or, than.
But it's not a simple software solution.
No, it's not a simple software solution, but at the same time, we knew that Y2K was going to be okay because too many people had too much to lose by not figuring it out.
Yep.
And that's my point here. There are so many people that literally not just benefit, but an entire world, not a nation, but an entire world that is looking to get back to work simultaneously. That is a big
I think we're
motivator.
all going to be on the same job together at the same time. Everybody in this group, everybody.
I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a true statement. These are, all this stuff gets conflated, with whether it's the 5G, whether it's, COVID. We have all these problems that all of a sudden we find something we can blame it on. It's like, well,
It's more likely to say 5G wrecks our wireless industry, but it then causes problems with our COVID. It's weird.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that at all. That's well, okay. So let's talk about that. We did a lot of RF, but we got a cage match coming up, but that's more about application. And, let me ask you, Pete, where do you think we are at right now when it comes to wireless? Are we in a nice lull for a while? Or
no, I think that I believe if the government had sold off most of the spectrum, manufacturers wouldn't have developed this stuff so quickly. I mean, I'm sure we would have had digital wireless eventually. Digital intercom was already there, and it would have been improved. But all of a sudden, when there's stress to actually use all this stuff, bang, they come up with solutions. And unfortunately, some solutions didn't catch on. Some really, really smart solutions. But ultimately, I think that the industry is going to come up with ways to have lots of wireless mics in virtually no spectrum.
Right. They'll have to. No doubt. And that's that's part of what we are experiencing right now with all of this. I think digital comms is out there on that edge, leading where things are going to probably head. We're seeing a lot of signs with that, whether that's Bolero and AES 67, where we're routing audio, not RF. Right. That's a dynamic change that we haven't done before. We've always thought of RF as, the antenna.
Right.
So I'm with you. I think that's where we see microphones. What about our low power world? what do you see a much lower power world of RF coming? Mac, you can weigh in on that too.
I think eventually, yes. I mean,
is 10 milliwatts too much?
what Pete was
Oh, way
alluding
too
to,
much. Way too much.
Yeah,
10
what
milliwatts
Pete-
to burn your brain out.
what Pete was alluding to was signal levels so low they were below the noise floor.
Well, I mean, that's one of the, I was referring to what I think is a amazing product, and it didn't quite work. That's Alteros. And that was 24 wireless mics operating in the 5 gig range under amazing situation where I think there was the level of the signal is lower than the noise floor that you can see on any spectrum analyzer. And that technology could have been expanded to more and more and more and more. And that the plug was pulled on Alteros, and they were basically closed down because they didn't have salesmen to sell it. That's what it's missing. There weren't enough sales of it, and it was not out there. But it was an amazing technology.
It certainly was a very robust package.
Very.
Like I didn't get a chance to use it, firsthand. Now maybe that was part of the challenge, is that it did too much. It did everything. It talked every language. It was Maddie. It was Dante. It was AES, right? But the transceiver idea, right?
Where all the RF is in the transceiver. It's like the wireless intercom is now. The RF smarts are all in the transceiver. So
Right.
Yeah, what we never got a chance to do was we never got a chance on that mic system to really break it, which is what we do well.
We didn't, but
Right.
ESPN did.
Kelly, you and I did.
Oh, that's true, didn't we?
Exactly. Remember the shows we did with it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
And ESPN had a
Spectropole.
studio on the east side of Manhattan overlooking the East River with glass windows, and they could keep it isolated room by room.
Yep.
No crosstalk between rooms because 5 gigahertz doesn't go through walls.
Kelly and I did a presidential debate event along with Larry Estrin. That was 2 presidential debates ago.
Was that 2?
It was
Might have
2,
been
right?
3.
Maybe
No,
3.
It
It was in the way back. And,
way back machine.
And we worked astonishingly well. And in those days, I think you could only have 4 antennas on the system. And the current version that they have discontinued had 30 some odd antennas you could put on and spread it all over your facility. Truly amazing. And I wish that somebody.
The guy from ESPN said they'd been using it a year and never had a dropout.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
And that's always the difficulty when you're the first to market. We always hear Apple talking about that topic of where they don't want to be the first. They don't mind being second. They don't even mind being third. They just want to be the best at it. And so you'll hear that thrown around a lot, but there is a lot of benefit to being the second and third into anything, right? It's always
Talk to Betamax about that.
Yeah.
well, it didn't work out so well for them, did it?
No.
Right? Now there are gigs though where it's been nice. I have a theory: you always want to be the third person, right? You never want to be the next person, but it's always good to be the next person, right? Because usually the next person, nobody tells you everything that was bad, why you're there, and the other person isn't, right? But by the time the third, everybody's forgotten about everything else, right? Jeff, you brought about the point about these 5 gigahertz mics and latency and also Zaxcom, right? So all these hurdles, because the bag folks have been doing this forever, right? When you don't need 60, 70 channels of microphones, a lot of things, or you don't need something in, you have some latitude, let's call it, versus say music performance, like the touring people, right? I'm curious where people are seeing with tours is the same hang up around latency still there? Because, you know, I have my theories and I'll save those, but I'm curious to see if some people here who work with tours regularly.
Tours are regularly using Axiom Digital.
They're using
Which
Axiom
has a
Digital, and
little
what's
bit
their
of
hang up
latency.
though? Do they have the same hang ups with latency like with Dante now, right? If I would have told a monitor engineer 6 milliseconds 5 years ago, you know, even though their waves rack costs them way more than that, perhaps, I don't know. Are we in a different world? I'm curious if some people have some thoughts on that, you know, that
Well,
And then
certainly
some of the
waves would
same
have more
tours-
latency than Dante.
Some of the same tours using Axiom Digital were also thinking about using Alteros.
Mhm.
Ultimately decided they could do the entire show with Axiom Digital with that because they could get enough channels in high density mode. So the latency in the mics is never going to be a problem.
right,
In the rest
Right.
of the system that has to be managed, right?
right. So, you know, in-ears, right? Where are we
Well, I don't think you'll ever get a digital in here
Comms.
because you just I don't.
So comms, you know, that seems to be leading the way on what our form factor in terms of the distributed system, right? The distributed antenna system. We chatted about that. That's coming. The microphones. Do we ever see the day where I could take a mic anywhere in the world without,
That's
other than
called-
licensing?
That's called Unity Intercom.
That's Unity Intercom, huh?
Exactly.
No, I'm talking about a
Anywhere in the world.
microphone, you know, where I could transit from country to country, with the exception of understanding that I need a license to do it, which would be, you know, reasonable expectation.
Well, unfortunately, Wi-Fi is the only band that's universal across the entire world, I think. Jason, can you answer that?
Yep,
If
hang
that's
on.
true.
That's,
But and Wi-Fi mics aren't as reliable. So
right. So I'm allowing.
ISM band is worldwide.
So
Yeah, ISM bands and which includes 2.4 gigahertz, which shares with Wi-Fi, 902 to 928 megahertz.
I thought the 900 ISM in the US wasn't universal everywhere.
You know, you might be right about that. I'm drawing a blank right now.
no, that's okay. We didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's more of just, I guess I did mean to put you on the spot, but the point is
Exactly.
not so much you, but rather just this idea of, does the consumer have that expectation the way they walk around with their laptop now,
Right.
and you land in
Oh,
a country?
Hey, all our clients expect all their wireless to work all the time, no matter what.
Correct. That's
Right.
a safe
It's not
statement.
their problem. It's not
Correct.
their problem. It's our job to make them feel like, whether it's true or not, that that's going to happen for them.
Unfortunately, the TV band was the only way around the world pretty much to use your stuff, and now it's dwindling quickly.
That's correct. That's correct. And the UHF, for instance, of course, we all know here in the States, we've just shrunk it all. It's not the same all around the world. And then to make it even more complicated, TV stations, individual TV channels, in some countries they're 6 megahertz wide, in some countries they're 8 megahertz wide. So it's really up to all of us to actually do our homework for each country we're about to visit. So unfortunately, the best we can get for a universal wireless right now is something that's wideband, something like
Covers the
Axiom
whole band.
Digital, right?
Axiom Digital or something,
Yeah,
right.
or electro wideband.
Yep.
Sennheiser receivers are wideband, but you still have to pay attention to their transmitters. They're narrower. So we're not there yet. I think we'll get there, but we're not there yet.
Okay, that's reasonable. I don't want to use up all your good material today. All right, Jason. So just let's
Save some for the
dry.
next show.
All right.
Yeah,
I want
kick
you to
me
come
out.
ready. Is your workout going well? I mean, you're getting ready for cage match, so I mean, lots of push-ups, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Working on the
Pull-ups.
cardio, right? Okay.
Yep. I built a Faraday cage in the living room, and I'm working out with the wife.
Okay, good.
Okay, I got my Faraday cage on now. I'm ready for you.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So I'm going to try something here. This could be dangerous, but I'm going to try it. Edward Willock has raised his hand. Okay. So the only person to like really raise their hand, right? Okay. So I'm going to try this and I'm going to make sure I have the right. So hang on. I got to make sure I'm going to put, Jason, I'm going to disable your chat talking for now. All right. Now, let's see. Edward, you are up. Welcome to Practical Show Tech Radio.
Great. So I had asked a couple questions. We already passed the first ones where we were talking about the PPE and stuff. But I was wondering if we could maybe switch gears and talk about how some of the legislation like AB 5 is affecting California, how it's going to affect our industry if it's adopted on a more national level. Are we going to see freelancers be hired as W-2 employees all of a sudden?
I have had more than half of my clients in the past 2 years switch over to W-2 from 1099, just because, and they weren't California employees, companies, they were mostly in New York. And it's mostly because it's easier to deal with that than the arguments they got into the IRS about it. It cost them a little bit more money, but in the end, it was easier for them.
I've had a couple that switched over, but I still have plenty that are 1099. And you know, it hasn't affected New York. I'm based in New York.
Right.
But you know, the people I hear from online who are in California are saying it's wreaking havoc. And
well, they're not. They just now are being forced into it, and everybody's forced into it. So,
right.
In reality, when you look at it, they're employees. They're not freelancers. There's no way you can stretch the freelancer definition into the kind of job we do.
Right. I agree. Do we think that COVID is going to make it easier for these legislations to pass now that so many independent contractors are left without, unemployment benefits?
Unfortunately, we still have to deal with politicians. So, I'm not entirely sure that COVID itself is going to force these kind of legislation, particularly this kind of payroll kind of thing, work, because COVID doesn't really have an impact on that. I mean, COVID is mostly caused by 5G, so we have to worry about that.
That's right. I'm not buying a 5G phone. I just want you to know this.
Exactly.
Because AB 5 has the number 5 in it too. So I don't want anything with 5 in it.
AB 5 causes COVID. Exactly.
All of this. That's an interesting question. Yeah.
And somebody asked if the day rates are going to change when we go back to work because of this. I can't imagine that being a factor. People are going to be so hungry to get back to their jobs. They're going to pay the people they trust, and the people they trust are going to get their rate. So,
right. So, that for some of our guests that are from outside the U.S., I see a lot of this answer is coming in for folks. This is the proposed, the California law, basically to answer the gig economy, but not the real gig economy, which is us, right?
Right.
Rather the car, that Uber, the Lyft does, those services that emerged from that, right? Which is a shame because we all kind of get lumped in to this one thing, right? And so do you think this is something that gets fixed where it's kind of, they go in, they do all of this, and then they go, okay, well, we're just going to capture everybody in one big net for now. And then we'll start pulling them out and going, oh, well, you're okay. I'm going to leave you alone, or whatever you're doing is fine as long as you have workman's comp and as long as you have liability and as long as you're paying your taxes on time. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to realize that our industry, the entertainment industry, is this big compared to the rest of the world.
Right, but we're in that net. You know, we're the little
Right.
fish down at the bottom of the net, kind of like
Exactly.
during repack, right? Why does everything feel like repack, man?
Exactly.
You know, it's just like you represent this much. Yeah, except that, you know, you don't have any of your press conferences and you don't have any of your Broadway shows without us. Sorry. Wish everybody could enjoy your movies, but you can't, right? So I get that. I'm liking this hand raise thing. If anybody's got some stuff they want to talk about, please, you know, throw your hand up. We'll be happy to jump on that. All right, I see another hand. Say, Jason, welcome back.
Welcome. Yeah, I forgot about WYSICOM.
What? You forgot about WYSICOM?
I
Good
forgot
news-
about WYSICOM. How could I forget about WYSICOM?
Oh,
WYSICOM's
that's
awesome.
okay. It's okay.
I
They'll
mean-
forgive you.
Yeah, Jim's awesome. What a great company. Their products are killer. Anyway, that's
On-
the closest.
Jason, on Wednesday, April 15th, 4 p.m., we have a WYSICOM show.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
aware. I'm going to be there listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that stuff's as close to DC to daylight as we've got right now.
Yep,
It's many of their products go all the way from VHF up to 1 gigahertz, which covers all of the major worldwide, at least television bands that we're allowed to use, and several of the STL and licensed bands.
Right.
So, didn't want to forget about those guys.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, they appreciated that. So no problem.
Well, and so do our F guys, because
Absolutely.
that's pretty major. You know, when
It's-
you can slap something in the rack that can do anything you want, it's kind
Right.
of a big deal.
Now they've definitely, I think there's a good point of a market and RF disruptor, perhaps, that
Oh, yeah.
turned out to be a real positive in terms of they didn't just come in at a low cost. They came in at a feature rich, right?
Right.
And they've I would
Well, it was a Tesla Roadster.
right.
A Tesla Roadster.
There you
came in,
go. You know,
Right? You want the best. You want the newest. You want the best. You want to snap your neck when you hit the pedal. They did it.
yeah, well, they're definitely raising the bar, and that's what, you know, is really, you know, in fact, that's what got me thinking that every show needs an antenna matrix. You know, really, when you think about it, why doesn't, I mean, there's some shows that obviously don't need it, but for the most part, you get into any mid to large size, and as soon as they give me the 3 letters LED, I just go, well, I'm gonna get myself an antenna matrix, right? Because I can do a lot with it. You know, we heard a lot of great examples with the RF analyzer ports, you know, and listening to multiple.
And being able to software control all aspects of your antenna system,
Yep.
Sure.
which really
Right.
nobody else does.
In a centralized receiver position, right? Because part of our cost control for shows going forward, especially let's think about a webcast scenario where we want to give the illusion that we've got 2, 3, 4 different sites. It's like when you see the 2 box, you know, on the news and they're sitting
Right.
next to each other, but you get the nice illusion that, well, maybe they're not. I don't know, right? But that, you know, that's what we're going to be producing. We need to understand that we got to leverage less to do more.
Right.
Yep.
You know, let's
Yep.
see here.
Signing off.
All right, signing off, turning you off. It's nothing personal.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Whoa. All right, I'm going to lower all the hands because only one hand was raised. I know. You know what? As much as I said I didn't like Zoom, there's some things I really like about it. I'll be honest.
Well, as long as you're not trying to put 15 people on the screen, it seems to be happy.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It's better than the Facebook Messenger that I was at a Seder just prior to coming on here, and it was pretty low quality.
Yeah. But you know, again, I go back to my point, and the point that I think Michael Mason made so poignantly in that note to me was, look, we're going to have a number more weeks of sports that are esports, of news from basements. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I am state of the art compared to NBC. I'm right on par with them in many respects, right? Because I can go to Unity.
I did a conference yesterday with the White House.
Okay, don't get yourself in trouble.
And we were definitely the best site.
Even better than the White House.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty major corporations making presentations to the president, and really they needed help.
Well, I'm gonna take the positive approach here, which is we have opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Where what we have to do as audio people, I think, is understand everything else that I am feeding into, that what I'm providing is but the microphone, but I can encourage, whether it's the production company I'm working with, getting to understand. One of the most insightful times I had was learning about streaming. It was not really riveting reading, but when I understood what it was doing to my audio, I began to be able to ask. I had to learn to speak a different language. So when I went over to my counterpart over in the streaming department, who didn't really care about audio, and they looked at it simply as just you deliver it to me. Then I started saying, well, can we talk about your bit rate for a second? What are you doing for audio encoding specifically? And what are your limitations you have on your connection? Because I'll be honest, I want as high a bit rate as I can for my audio. And here's why, right? And then when we started to talk, he goes, oh, I get oh yeah, this is simple. No problem. I go into this menu, I pull that down, because I was watching on my iPad going, not for nothing, but I'm not really liking what I'm seeing and hearing, right? Yeah. And when we started having that conversation, all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I can fix that. I'm like, okay, well, there we go.
They didn't care about audio. They never occurred to them to
right, but it wasn't out of malice. It wasn't
no,
like
not at
screw
all.
audio. It wasn't anything like that. It was just,
years ago, 20, 30 years ago, Larry Eston did some Grammy award shows, and he wanted to know what was the audio path from where they were doing the show to the transmitter. And it took him a long time, a couple of weeks to grab out of everybody where it was going to the network, where it was being transmitted everywhere, and then to find out how they were all processing it according to what they thought had to be processed along the way. And until he got control of that, it was catch in when it comes out the other end. Sometimes it was lousy, sometimes it was good, but he had no control over it until he got control of every step of the way. And that's true of any show. You want to follow the path.
That's it. I mean, transmission. Who's your best friend? Transmission.
Yeah.
Right? These are the last people to touch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And then the next, I remember reading an article years ago that just made such a, tell you how old it was when they were first implementing surround, right? 5.1 in the broadcast over the air market.
Another five.
There you go. And I knew I didn't like 5. And one of the articles was they would go to each of the affiliates and listen to their feed of that program to ensure that all the affiliates had everything configured correctly. Because it wasn't just, okay, so I'm sending it out, it's right, it's good here, right? I mean, how many times do we say that? We put our headphones on and go, sounds good to me, I don't know what your problem is, right?
It's leaving here good.
That's right. It's got to be somebody else's problem. And to that end, it's like, so my relationship has to change. I got to work with people differently. And that, to me, that's what this whole exercise is about right now. It gives me the ability to contact people that I normally haven't talked to in a very long time and say, hey, number one, how are you doing? Right. And number two, how can we work differently together? I was talking to an LD about that, and he's like, what do you think it's going to be like the first day we go back to work? I mean, we had the obvious things like somebody coughs and you go, what? But just how you gonna feel, right? We haven't seen each other for years. I mean, you and I and Mac, we'll have seen each other a lot. Ironically, we don't work that much together. So that's just, it's kind of funny how that works out. Maybe that's why it's a good marriage.
The last time I worked with you, Kelly, was at St. Joe's.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And you were over at the World Trade Center.
I was at the World Trade Center.
See each other for like half an hour a day.
I was at the World Trade Center and St. Joe's.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was the show where I got the call from Larry. Larry goes, is this mic stand white? No, Larry, the mic stand's black. He goes, what color's the mic cable? I'm like, cable's black, right? He goes, what color's the mic? And he knew what the color mic was because he gave it to me. He's like, I said, it's white, right? He goes, the stand and the cable need to be white. I'm like, well, what? Like, how, when? He goes, I don't know, figure it out, right? And that's what I always loved about him, because he's like, you need to figure this out, right? I didn't like it at the moment, but I also wanted to go, I'm here for comms, right? There's like a PA company, right? But okay, I got you. I'm working for you and I'm there with you. I'm part of the team. So I got all my stagehands together and a couple rattle cans of white spray paint. And for 3 hours prior to his arrival, we spray painted mic stand and cables, right? And all I could think about when it was going on, I was like, please be dry, please be dry, please be dry, right? And but those moments that we have, right, that became a pivotal point in my life where you get thrown into a point, and this is another one of those times in my life where it's like, hey, you know what? Trajectory is going to change. You can either go with it and figure it out, or you can sit around and go, well, I don't know where this is going to leave me. Pete's the king of reinvention, at least his hair color, right? So what are you thinking, Pete?
Oh, I was just trying to research one of the questions that came up, and I can't quite find it. Somebody asked, what has anybody done studies on the frequency response and audio quality metrics on various web conference solutions out there? And our own personal experience is a little bit with Zoom and a little bit more with webinars. And the first show we did only a mere 3 weeks ago was about doing webcasting. And the next day we got all these notes from people we know. How come you guys sounded so bad? You're using little earbud microphones, and for audio guys, you should be sounding better. So as you see, you can't see Max because it's hidden behind a blue screen, but
yeah, it is.
We've all upgraded to regular microphones, as it were, and it's made a big difference. But as far as the frequency response of the actual software,
yeah, it doesn't seem too bad on either platform. The difference, this with three of us on screen with Zoom has been pretty stable.
Yeah.
But previous times when we used Zoom, there was a lot of bandwidth issues. Somehow,
well, I think they
tonight it's
take the time good. During the day when we were doing those. They were like midday, and Could be. Everybody and his mother-in-law was on Zoom.
Yeah.
The big challenge is it obviously goes through a main server, right? So when my connection gets glitchy, I always, it's funny, you'll get a note from one of the other presenters going, why did that drop out? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds perfectly fine.
Didn't drop out here, left,
right?
Fine. It was sounded fine leaving here.
Yeah, but we also learned today with Sam from Figure 53 that GoToMeeting is a mono signal unless you go in on your Windows only control panel, and you can change it to be stereo. Ironically enough, I discovered that on Ecamm Live with my son and my brother-in-law.
We're using Mac on that. So how do we change our signal to be stereo? We were doing a show today about QLab, and several people said, how come his test signal sounds like mono? Well, it is.
Right. Well, because because they're all saving bandwidth, right? But their platform is not stereo. But you can go in
Yep.
Like on Ecamm Live, found a little box that's like, oh, check this box, and it's now stereo. It's like, whoa, that sounds really good.
Yep. Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So yeah, we're all learning a lot about, you know, we're learning a lot about this, you know. But you know, to our point, our first show, this was any port in a storm, right? It's like, look, we're just getting on the air. We're gonna go. We're gonna sign up for the first thing. I'm like, here's my credit card. You know,
Already, I had been stuck in at home. We'd all been stuck at home for 2 weeks at least, and but it'd been quite a long time since the last show we did, and I binge watched everything I wanted to watch. And the rest of the stuff, I couldn't stand to watch one show of it.
Yeah.
And Kelly called and said, "Want to do a show?"
You know.
Okay, let's do a show.
Yeah. Well, the first one I had the 100 attendee pack, and then after Staffel's thing started coming in, I'm like, I could sign up as many people as I wanted, but I could only host 100. I'm like, I'm going to need a bigger boat. So, you know, we bumped her up to 500, but yeah, James Burke, that's why your speaker only comes through one right speaker. And so now, I don't know, I may have to log in on a PC just so I can fix something to get, I don't know. We're working on that, but it is just kind of funny.
There was somebody who came up, mentioned a solution.
Sessionware.
No, it wasn't that. I think it was called Jack. For
Jack something, but I found another one called
for getting audio into.
We can stream high quality, extremely low latency audio from our presenter to everybody who's listening.
Right.
Simultaneously with doing webinar.
Yeah, we were unable to get Sam's computer into the webinar. So he had to hold his microphone in front of the speaker, and it
didn't work.
All right. Oh, look at this. We're getting all kinds of populations of from Kenneth of all the these different links that everybody can be seeing.
Yep. Yeah.
Hey, Gary, I'm not going to turn your camera on, but I do want to go back to Gary Cobb for a second, if I could. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to ask this because I've known you for so long. I'm curious how do you, as a guy who owned a studio, who we did remote recordings, we did, you know, Taste of Chicago together. We did, you know, I remember standing next to him at front of house. We were troubleshooting a DDA console because every time you plugged a pair of Sony headphones in, if you PFL'd something, it put it through the aux bus. And we're like, he's like, how come my PFL is going to stage on that one foldback mix? Took us forever. And we're like, oh, we're just overdriving the headphone amp. So we put a different set of headphones on it. It never happened again, right? But how have you seen, Gary? What do you see? You've always been there with you loved getting in the software. You were in Sonic Foundry before
Sonic Solutions.
Sonic Solutions, right? And I don't know, Sony bought them or something, and you would do your FBI, you know, cleanup files and all that kind of stuff. What's your feeling now? You know, you've seen a lot of evolutions, as have I. What would you say is your biggest takeaway of your positive about the speed of change, and what's probably your single biggest frustration?
Well, probably my single biggest frustration is I spent all the big money when it first came out, and now the same things I spent $100,000 on, you can get for $2,000. And if I'm lucky, I've made the money back because I was the first guy doing it, or at least in my area. So that's probably was the biggest frustration, was earning back by, you know, being the first guy. There's a lot of things out there that are touting the same things that I do for a lot less. You know, everybody has a noise removal software, but when you listen to them, they're, you know, they damage the file too bad. And so those are, you know, some of the things that I see. I'm just trying to think if there's,
because you still do live. That's one of the things that's always impressed me about you ever since I've known you. You've always been, you know, that plus one. You know, he had the studio, plus you did the live, plus, right? You know, where that's kind of the industry we're in, right? Where to stay relevant, you don't get the luxury of doing just one thing.
Well, when I had all the interns coming out of Columbia College, you know, like, well, I just want to be a studio engineer, or I just want to be this or that. It's like, well, in the audio business, pretty much you're going to do a little bit of everything if you really want to pay the bills and make some money, because studios were dying at that time. I originally came from the live world. That's when you first met me, doing concerts and events like that. And I bought the studio to get off the road. And of course, right as soon as I got off the road and got the studio going, I started picking up corporate clients, which was a whole new avenue for me because I came from rock and roll. And as soon as that came in, I was like, okay, now I own a studio. I've got my wife running it. I've hired people to be here at the studio, and I'm out doing all this live work again. So I think, for me, it's always been a little bit of everything, which has kind of helped keep me on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff. But at the same time, I've never become a specialist on any one thing because of doing so many different things. I mean, other than the restoration work, which I did a lot of. So when you spread yourself thin, you never become a specialist, but you keep working. And, that's my big takeaway on it. I would do a little bit of everything, and I've always stayed busy except for this last month or so.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, one of the things that usually I try to keep my all our attendee list kind of somewhat confidential, but I will say this, knowing you're signed up for about anything and everything you can get onto. And that's not because of, necessarily, I think it just goes to prove that that's part of the challenge of staying current, is listening to not me, but all the people that are coming on and all these other webinars that are available out there right now, that you can't stop learning.
Yeah, that's the key. Don't stop learning, and you can learn from anybody. I mean, I've had interns come into my studio that taught me something that some other teacher taught them, that somehow I just, hey, I got a guy who's brand new that just taught me something. So always keep your mind open to every day. If you don't walk away with something new, it was a wasted day.
Yeah. Not a bad philosophy there. So thanks. I'm gonna figure out how to make you an attendee again that doesn't have a microphone, but until I then do, don't say anything you'll regret. Good. Yep. It's like somebody says, this is a lavo. It's funny how we all have our things, but Pete, you got any kind of thoughts? And Mac, I think we're kind of rounding around this corner for our inaugural episode. But
well, I think that I was watching the news before this came on and thinking about the amazingly sad situation we're in, and how many people are dying, and the fact, not only that, but the fact that almost 80% of the people who go on a ventilator eventually die and are on it for two weeks or so, which is extremely painful. So it's a very painful death. And I don't want to get into politics, but the president, the federal government has totally fallen behind. You think this would be an ideal situation for them to shine, just come right out there and say, okay, we're going to take charge of everything, but they didn't. So what can you do? And you and I and Mac, we just didn't want to sit around. So we decided to do something as positive as we could have done, which is to share knowledge and to share training and to be optimistic about this whole thing. And, it's not like we're making or selling or bringing food to the hospitals or making face masks. It's not quite as important as that kind of helping the whole situation, but it's working for us. And one, we get to see each other all day. Basically it's the same as sitting in the shop. We turn on our cameras in the morning at 10 o'clock and we're just sitting in the shop prepping for the next show. And it's been, we love bringing all these different people to this platform to talk about it. And we've now done 17, 18 shows. What show is this? 20? And have another 20 in the pipeline and a list of another 20 we want to do. So we're not going to slow down at all. So.
Yeah. And to Gary's point about learning, I mean, he was talking about pre-COVID learning.
Right.
Learning every day when we weren't in this situation where, We have time to learn. And it's, we would like everybody to come and learn on our platform because it's gratifying a bit to us. But there's resources out there that everybody should be taking advantage of, because this is our opportunity to advance ourselves and, improve in our jobs and maybe learn things not in this industry that improve us as people. Oops, don't bang the table.
Exactly. We all work in audio and comms and RF, and we've got that down pat. That's no big deal. We can I'm going to put everybody in the RF Faraday cage match right under the table. No problem. But we don't know really how to do lighting. We don't know really how to do video, how to, what's an E2 do? What's a D3 do? What does all this stuff do? And we're now going to get people to come on and explain what all this stuff is. And eventually we'll take over the world. So
who would not want you as as their world leader? Yeah. Okay, there you go. Now, and that's a great point, Pete, that I think the ability to connect across, like we were talking about, swimming out of our lane in a positive way. Do me a favor, everybody who's on here tonight, do me two favors. One is reach out to your friends in the industry and encourage them to watch these, not because we're on here, but because the manufacturers that come on and the other presenters that join us, this is how we feed the system. This is how we prove to them that they are significant to what we do. And if you want a voice in product and you want a voice in how you're working, does that mean we get everything we want in a product? Absolutely not. And trust me, you do not want to put every feature in that the three of us dream up. Right? That is like disaster. And those of you listening right now on this know who you are. And so take solace in that. But I think the second ask I would have is that send in some ideas. The idea of this town hall, and we're still experimenting with it, is I was looking at the number of comments over AB5, right? And because that's, when it comes to our livelihoods, money, that resonates pretty strongly with people, right? So we're not lawyers, we're not doctors,
in the morning I'm a doctor.
Well, you are. You dress up like one, Mac. But at the end of the day, send us your ideas, because we need the idea of town hall is probably not so much about, we did wander into RF, which I'm glad we did. I kind of drug us there, and all that, and we should talk about it. But this is the idea of these town halls, is to say, hey, what are some topics that we need to bring to top of mind? Let's find people that are at their, whether it's lawyers, whether it's doctors, whether it's, what Denise was talking about. We need to take this moment to help create a singular voice around whatever it is, right? We don't have to find agreement in order to discuss it, right? And I hope everybody walks away from tonight understanding that it's like, look, we don't need to figure the problem out. We just need to understand there is a problem first, and then we'll formulate a plan. That's what we do for every show. You get that? That's like what we do for a living. We solve problems. Solve enough problems, you have a show, right? It's a series of problems that when you answer them, boom. So, and I saw a note from Alex that we're working, we were talking about Aram's working on some great YouTube videos for the business side of things, incorporating how do you keep more of this money that you earned, that you worked for, right? Or maybe you find some other ways to connect with that vendor and go, hey, how can I figure this out and be a part of helping you stay in business? We got to reward those companies. Bill Salzer was just such a great example of someone who works really hard at figuring out how to be the best at what he does. And that's not to belittle, you know, I mean, we have great relationships. I'm not even gonna start listing all the companies right now. I just brought up Bill because he
Be
was
careful.
on.
Shane Smith was the last person to leave a Q&A. So be careful.
Oh, there you go. We don't want to slam that, but he's right there. And so we have a lot of opportunities. So please send us those things. Send us your ideas. I'd love to do these town halls once a week, every 10 days, maybe, to just get an assessment. And I promise you, we'll start bringing more people on to the radio show. I think that worked well because we didn't have to worry about any people that were not suitably attired. Sorry, Jason, for, you know, at least it sends you a note and says, hey, they want to use your camera. Are you okay with that? So if you turn it on, it is your own problem. I just want to get that out there. So let's see, tomorrow morning, what's up for tomorrow? What do we got on?
Tomorrow. Well,
Let's go to our
next week we have a lunch with Pete coming up on the 15th, but that's the only one I know about.
No, so tomorrow's Regal Bolero standalone.
Bolero is standalone Bolero, which, and then the week after that on Tuesday, another Tuesday, Riedel Tuesday, they're going to do artist along with regular Bolero. So that'll be 2 Bolero heavy shows between all of them. And then, of course, on Friday, we have an RF Faraday cage match among half a dozen world-class RF coordinators around the world from Australia to here. And that's going to be sort of fun.
I think that's going to be fun. You know, if we look at next week, Vectorworks Basics.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm going to tell you right now, we did not mean to do this. Thank you, Phil Barrett, for last week sending a note in with that. Little did we know that Vectorworks is actually doing their training the same exact day within 1 hour of that. Somebody sent me a note and I'm like, go to that one. Ours is recorded and you can watch it at any time.
It's recorded?
It's recorded.
Yeah, it's
I
recorded.
didn't know that. And then IAS deep dive on the 13th that afternoon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are like 2 seriously lots of note days. I will challenge you on the 16th. We're doing Telos Infinity IP intercom, and then in the afternoon, or they're both in the afternoon, but then we're doing Pliant and their crew com. They've got an interesting interconnectivity there, hence the reason they're both on there. But I would challenge you folks to come to Telos Infinity. I think that what they're doing and the pure IP play that they have of using AES 67 is so interesting. And I think it's going to cause you to think about audio routing. If we just remember that intercom is audio, let's do that. So again, maybe your role is not implementing a Telos system ever. I would challenge you to come and do it and listen to it, because the same best practices that move intercom move microphones. All right. AES 67 is AES 67. So we got a lot of cool stuff. I'm pretty pumped. Lots of networking.
And I would encourage you to check the website periodically, because first of all, we only put up a week at a time because
it changes.
Scheduling things on short order, things can move around. So check the website. But yeah, be aware of what's coming up, and
if you can't make any of these shows, make sure you're back for Wednesday the 15th at noon, lunch with Pete. And as I learned from my last show, I'm not really going to do anything. I'm just going to say, what's your question? There we go.
It'll just be around RF and label making. Make him use his second camera. Hey, McDermott, I appreciate your notes there on the AB5 solution. This was something AB5 is resonating. Reach out to one another. LinkedIn is around. Throw these names out there. If somebody's trying to get connected with somebody, if you can't find them on LinkedIn and they're comfortable with it, connect through one of us and we'll make sure the other party's fine with it. And, you know, this is one big networking thing that we do, that let's keep doing that, and we'll keep building away here. So hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow, and then next week another town hall on one of these nights. So that's a nice microphone, Pete. You did good. All right.
This show is recorded. This show.
Oh,
Just
and on that.
all of you ADSR people go crazy.
On that note, so long and good night.
Good night.